Wes Foderingham, goalkeeper, Sheffield United.
Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, Sheffield United forward.
Rhian Brewster, Sheffield United forward.
Troy Townsend, Head of Player Engagement, Kick It Out. So, thanks for joining me for Sheffield United's Black History Month discussion. It's going to be a little bit light, but hopefully you'll enjoy, and we'll get a lot of insight into who you are as individuals and your thoughts on some of the topics in the game currently. So, if I was to start, we want to learn a little bit about your parentage. If I was to start and say parental heritage, where's your parental background from, and how's it influenced you?
So my dad's from Barbados, moved over here young, and my mum is from England, Manchester. I think growing up, we didn't have much money, so I never got to go back to Barbados. So I didn't quite get to understand sort of his heritage, but obviously growing up, he'd speak about it and stuff, and obviously I'm aware that it's a big part of who I am.
Got to be honest with you, I don't know how old you are, but I'm a lot older than you, and I've never been back to my parents, so let's not put that on camera, by the way. But, I get cussed on a regular occurrence. Courtney?
And yeah, same for me in terms of Barbados on the dad's side. So my nanny is from Barbados. My granddad is white, he was originally from Southampton. Mum's from Leicester, so it's quite a mixed bag as well, because on that side, sort of my granddad had a previous marriage. So there's sort of, my dad has 2 white half-sisters, and he's also got 2 brothers. So yeah, it's sort of a mixed match in that sense. But again, and still I'm very close to my nanny growing up, and it was, you know, in terms of cooking with her and all that sort of stuff. And I think it was always an important part of my background, and for me knowing where I came from.
Have you been to Barbados?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, so all in the same boat at the moment.
It's on the bucket list.
It's expensive now, yeah.
She told me though, I can't go back to Sandy Lane. She was like, that's where all the posh people go, you can't go down there.
It's expensive now.
This might be a lot of editing, guys, I'm really sorry. Rhian?
Yeah, father's from Barbados, and my mum's from Cyprus, the Turkish side. Yeah, I ain't been back either, don't worry, guys. I ain't been back to Barbados, but yeah, I've been back to Cyprus quite a bit, but I haven't been back in a long time. Yeah, and I want to go back to Barbados. Maybe hopefully next year, but we'll see.
In terms of who you are as individuals, how has culturally the side of, you know, your Bayesian side, how has that kind of impacted on you growing up, and, you know, in a positive way? You spoke about cooking their courts and, you know, making sure that you understood the Bayesian way as such. How has it impacted just in your upbringing as young people?
I think for me, it's, as you say, it's the little bits and bobs, it's the cooking, it's the family gatherings, it's trying to learn. And it is a process, because I think some people expect that it's just given and you should know how to be. And then it's hard because sometimes you're too white for some rooms and you're too black for other rooms. So it's trying to find yourself within that space. But for me, I've always seen it as a positive thing. And for me, whether it's in life or just for me personally, sort of the more that I can draw from, I think is a positive thing. But yeah, you've definitely, it's a process of finding your place within where you sit, I suppose.
And I suppose for the purpose of this then, sorry to jump in, guys, but you've just said something really massively important for me there. You're too white or you're too black. How has that affected you at all? How does that leave you?
I think it's difficult because, as I've said, in terms of some people say, well, you can't act like that because you're not black, but then it's like white people are like, well, you're not white, so you can't have that opinion or think in that way. And I think, like, for mixed people, there's always an automatic thing as, like, you're labelled as a certain thing. Whereas life in general is a spectrum, isn't it? So I think there is that effect of thinking in certain places or certain situations, I can't act in a certain way or, you know, say certain things. So I think in that sense, it's probably difficult in terms of watching your P's and Q's. And, yeah, how I am with my nanny and her side of the family. And my dad is probably, you know, different from not necessarily my mum, because we're very close, but maybe that side of the family, it's a very different relationship, I would say.
Yeah. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I think it's an important point, because I'd say when I was young, to the majority of, say, white people I'd interact with, they'd instantly say you're black. And to black people, they'd say you're mixed race. So it was like kind of a weird space, and I grew up living the majority of my childhood with my dad. So I was predominantly in a black household. So I felt naturally more black, I would say, because that was sort of all I knew. Majority of my friends were black, even though I lived in West London, multicultural area. The majority of my friends were black, but then there'll be times you'd have instances, say, like you do when you're young, little instances with police or whatever, like messing about, and instantly on the radio it's black, and you'd think, well, then you get the form for the doctor, say, and you're writing down, well, am I writing black, Caribbean, am I mixed, do you know what I mean? You don't quite really know what to write, so I think you just go for a process growing up, sort of finding out who you are, and yeah, it's quite a difficult place to be.
Is there any way that you can explain how difficult that process is? Because it's about your identity, isn't it? And your identity is being pulled from pillar to post to the point where you're even not sure.
Yeah, you start questioning, that's the thing. I just say it's wherever you feel comfortable. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those, it's people are born in loads of different countries, different colours. I don't think it's on anybody else to put a label on yourself, it's where you feel comfortable. And, you know, for me, I was, like I said, grew up in a black household, but I never neglected my white side of the family, or didn't feel like, oh, well, I don't have any white heritage, because I do. Yeah, but it's like I said, it's a process you have to go through, and you do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say, whereas the same as Wes, to be honest, where he grew up in a black household, I was a bit probably different, because I lived with my mum, and my mum and dad split up when I was younger, so I was more or less with my mum's side more time than my dad's side, so it was a bit different for me. But even that side, when I used to go to Cyprus, I was the little black kid. you know what I'm saying? It's like, but then I go to the black side, and I'm of course I'm black, but it's like, oh, you're not. I know you're, like they say, mixed race. So it's a bit of a weird one. But growing up it was hard, I'd say, because as well when you go to school, like they were saying, this, you know, you got different types of friends. You got black friends, and my area was predominantly like I'm Asian, so I have quite a few Asian friends and white friends, and it's like where do I fit in kind of thing, because you had the black friends, which are probably darker than me, and then you got the lighter friends, and then you're like, so where am I? And yeah, growing up was different, but when you don't really care and you just want to be friends with whoever you click with, it makes it easier.
Does the shade of your skin matter? As I look at the three of you, does the shade of your skin, is that brought into play at all, in terms of, you just mentioned there, you know, darker friends, and I have this particular thing at the moment around opportunities. If you're lighter skinned, you're deemed kind of okay, you're all right, you'll get the opportunity. If you're darker skinned, there's a struggle still. Is that reflective at all? Do you see that at all? Does it matter, or has it mattered in your journeys?
I don't think it's personally mattered to me, but I think the obvious thing is, in society it still does matter. And I think it's different for different people, and the lighter skin that you are, I do think it's easier in terms of those opportunities. But for me personally, it doesn't matter. And I suppose if you are black mixed race, you always have that automatic thing of looking at other people in a different way, in terms of you are more, I won't say forgiving, that's not the word, but when you grow up again in a multicultural background. So for me, you know, there was white kids, black kids, mixed race kids, Indian kids. So you get to that stage when you're younger where it's one of those cliches that I hate, but you don't see it. You just see your friends. Whereas then when you start to get older, and there's different things where, you know, society sort of hardens you, doesn't it? And it makes you separated, I suppose. So I think there's still a lot of work to do in that sense.
I'm glad the cliche still exists, because, as mentioned, and last time I'm going to mention this, by the way, I'm a lot older than all three of you, and those cliches existed because, again, my friendship circle was Asian, white, Greek, Turkish. You know, if you were nice to me, you were my friend, and we grew up in that way. And football was obviously that connecting kind of thing as well. You just automatically kicked a ball and became friends. Was that very similar for you, Rhian, in terms of growing up? What were your first memories of playing football, and who that social circle was?
Yeah, I remember just playing in the playground, you know. We used to do like my side of the year versus the other side of the year, and it was in my year, like my side of the year, there was all different types of races, and you know, we just all love football. So we used to just go and take that side of the playground and play one big match, and it was anyone that liked to play football that was on our side of the year played right for our team, and then the other side, and it was not black people all together,
Yeah, yeah.
white people are on the same team. It was just mixed, and that's what I mean. Football, I think football brings that togetherness no matter what. But I think in other instances, you can see it does pull away, like the different type of races.
Who used to win?
What side
On
of the
the
year?
majority, yeah.
Man, come on, man. My side, man.
No,
What
I'm
do you
just
mean?
asking, just putting it out there, just in case.
No,
Never
man.
lost at all.
When I weren't there.
What about you, Wes? First memories of football, playing the game?
So my primary school, we used to do the so it's sort of the end of the primary school, so it's year 5 against year 6. So when I was in year 5, we'd play the year 6s. And I used to play on pitch. Like, Rhian's gonna start laughing now. I used to play on pitch, but I was good. I was the best in my year on pitch.
Where did you used to play?
We don't play anywhere. We play
Left
everywhere.
back.
Just run about.
Just do a
Just
bit,
run about. So, yeah, we used to play then, and I was an emotional kid, like, just didn't really have, like, control of my emotions. And when we used to lose, I'd cry. And I'd just go into a
just in the
lesson,
playground?
just cry. I'd cry instantly if we lost. Every time, I'd cry. Like,
Still do that now?
Nah, I don't do it.
Still does it now.
Look at your teammate.
I'd cry.
Look at these
I
two
swear.
laughing at you.
No, honestly, I'd cry anytime we lost. That's the first memory I have, because even now I look back and I think that's embarrassing. But no, just sort of even growing up past that, you sort of get a group of friends, and the first thing you do is you play football. It doesn't cost any money. You get a ball, you go on the street and you play. And yeah, man, I just look back at them times as just so fun, because back then you're just playing for the love of the game.
Just let me go back. What do you think triggered those emotions? What was it that...
I just didn't like to lose.
Please.
I didn't like to lose.
Yeah. Was there anything connected to it though, or was it just
I just
not
didn't like to
knowing
lose.
about winning and losing and thinking
Probably,
that
yeah.
losing was
yeah, like probably not knowing that sometimes you have to lose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just felt, whenever I lost, didn't know how to deal with it. I just cried. That was it. If that was the end of the world.
All right, I'm not going to ask you anymore. This guy is just... Courtney, if I asked you, please don't say you cried, because it's
I
all
would've
over.
Listen, I'm not ashamed to cry.
No, I
A few
don't think
tears ain't
anyone
wrong.
should, but it's the fact that he's still laughing now. The emotion part of it, I think, is a massively important part of, growing and developing. What was yours like, Courtney?
On the estate,
Yeah.
for sure. And again, there's probably a bit of a stigma attached to that as well. But it was the best upbringing that I loved it. There was like a little sort of gravelled car park, not even a car park, but an area with garages in front of the house. So I was always there kicking a ball against the garage. We'd have matches on there. There was like like the old ball courts, tarmac, one of them. And then the other side, literally, there was like the smallest piece of like waste grass. And I remember my mum would then go out the back window and she'd shout me in for dinner because she could see the grass. So I was always allowed to go around there. But yeah, again, it was a similar thing as a ball cost nothing. Didn't grow up with, I never went without, but equally didn't have a lot. So yeah, you'd grab a ball, I remember there was a lamp post, and then so we'd take then a jumper or something, stick in the ground for the other goal. And yeah, it was always a mixture of everyone on the estate that would come out and football. And again, it was the same through school. I think football is one of those, it's a microcosm of society, isn't it? So it brings everyone together, and sort of you forget whatever's going on in your life for however long you're playing. Whether it's now, it's a bit different, it's the 90 minutes, but however long you was out for, you just forgot because you were playing.
So let's just tell everyone, so your upbringing in what area?
Shepherd's Bush, White City.
Shepherd's Bush, White City, West London?
Leicester.
I went to school in Chadwell Heath, but I lived in Romford.
So Romford, East London. You look like you was trying to pick a luxurious setting there for some reason.
No.
And I think that's important, because hearing all your stories and talking about how just the way that you played with everybody, you played football with everyone, you played sport with everyone, you grew up in this multicultural society that enabled you to grow and develop. So what I'm trying to give the viewers is the fact that we're going to get to the point of discussing racism. But your early years showed you that actually everybody is just equal. It's the football and us, yeah? I just want to touch on your parents' involvement in the journey as well then, if you don't mind, because like I said, I'm creating this picture for everyone to kind of understand and kind of get to know you even more. How important and what was your parents' involvement in your journey, Rhian?
Yeah, my parents were very good to me. They used to take me to training, so as you know, from where I lived, it was a good hour.
Where was you, first of all? What club?
Chelsea.
Right, okay.
So that was a long way away, at least an hour and a bit. And my dad and mum used to take it in turns to take me more my dad, because my mum was at home with my sister. But my dad used to take me a lot, and then I used to get home at 11:30 at night and wake up at 7 in the morning to go to school, half asleep like a zombie. But yeah, wherever the games were, sometimes the games were far, they would both get up and take me. I say my dad more than my mum when I was younger. But no, they were very, very good to me, and I never ever went without. I never missed a game, never missed a training session because they couldn't take me. They always made time to take me.
Brilliant. Courtney, what about yourself?
Yeah, so mum was really supportive. So my mum and dad split up when I was really young, but mum didn't drive, but always found a way to get me there. And whether it was her, a mixture of then my dad, and as I say, I'm very close to my nanny on my dad's side and my granddad. So sort of between the family unit, I think it you know, I always managed to get there somehow. And then later on, when my mum's partner now, when he came on the scene as well, he drove. So that was helpful, and it's quite funny because my nanny, she wanted me to be the next Serena Williams. Yeah. So I disappointed her quite a lot with that. So I had a stage where I was playing both football and tennis, and it got to a stage where the training nights conflicted, and I had to make a choice. So she will tell you to this day, I broke her heart. I could have been travelling around the world with you, doing your laundry. So, I mean, she's proud of me now, don't get me wrong. She'll be cussing me now saying, I am proud of you. But yeah, she would have rather me be a tennis player. But I was tall growing up, and then I stopped growing. So I'm, 5'4". So tennis probably wasn't for me, in all fairness.
Brilliant. We've got the nanny story as well about you being a tennis player. I love it. Wes?
Yeah, so by the time I started playing football more seriously, my parents had split up, so I was living with my dad. But yeah, he was massively supportive. Obviously, I played for Fulham, but they used to train in Motswell Park, which is Surrey. So it would take us an hour and a half on the train. Again, I wouldn't miss a training session, wouldn't miss a game. Even the away games, he'd find a way to get me there. But he was really, really supportive, but really tough as well. At the same time, just old school black man, just no time for like messing about, none of that. So I'll tell you a couple of funny stories. So when I'd play and I'd do something wrong, I'd look over and he'd just give me a look. He wouldn't say anything, just a look, and it just helped me to focus. Like it wasn't a look as in you're getting beats when you get in, but it was a look as you better fix up. And I always remember that to this day. And whenever I sort of strayed, I used to mess about, be a joker. He'd be on me all the time. And yeah, his influence was just, massive for me.
Brilliant.
Did you say it used to be a joker? Wait, what?
I'm a big man now, I can joke.
You're not having that?
He's still a joker. He's still a joker.
So, listen, your upbringing is there. You've all grown up in different areas and you've all experienced different things, although very similar. There's been quite significant people, family support in your lives. You end up playing for Sheffield United. What does it mean to play for this football club? You both look at each other as if, you go first, I'll go first. I find that this team is very, very together. No matter what race, colour, age you are, I think even in the changing room, like everyone's together, and I think it's starting to show on the pitch quite a bit. The togetherness, even when we played on the weekend, one person's in there getting, with the other physical with the other team, and then we're all in there because it doesn't matter whether Wes is in there, I'll be the first one in there, whether George is in there or Eags, and we all come from different backgrounds, and I think and it shows, and I think it also shows with the fans, because we all have chants and songs, and they all sing it, no matter like black, white, Asian, different from Irish, Scottish, and I think that shows for the whole statue of the club. So the fans just see you as someone representing their football club, and they want to give you their full backing and support. Yeah, 100%.
You work hard for them. They chant your name.
Courtney.
Yeah, I think for me, the Blades for sure have got a special part in my heart, because I came here when I wasn't in a good place with football, and it was sort of, I might retire, and I fell out of love with the game. And
why, Courtney? Sorry.
So I was at Liverpool. I'd had a bit of a bad time there in terms of, it's quite well documented in terms of the stuff that was happening behind the scenes at the club there, and thankfully that's been sort of resolved now. But yeah, sort of fell out of love with the game. And yeah, wasn't sure. And I suppose the women's game's a bit different as well in terms of, you know, the financial incentives and everything like that isn't as strong. So it's terms of, you know what, I felt at that point in time I wasn't getting enough back from the game to not enjoy it and the way it made me feel. But yeah, sort of speaking to the club and especially Redders, you know, the gaffer who I'd worked under before, sort of persuaded me not to. And yeah, forever thankful for him for that, because now I'm in a place where I'm at a club where I feel valued. I'm enjoying my football, and it's, again, I'll bring out another cliche, but this genuinely does feel like a family club. It's, you know, it's quite small in terms of you know, the ins and outs of the training ground, but in terms of the stature of the club and the fans and the way that you're made to feel within the club. It's that for women's football, I suppose there's always that thing about resources and money, and that's one thing, but in terms of how you're made to feel as a person within the club, like the club have got that right here for sure. You're made to feel a part of the club, and I think that's really important. And yeah, it's the same, you know, with us in terms of the girls. There's a mixture of people from different backgrounds, but that sort of, you know, we just get on with the job, and we're all a team, and very much enjoying each other's company at the moment. Won last game out against Durham, and hopefully that continues and we have a good season.
Fantastic, brilliant. Wes and you?
I'd say really welcoming the fans. I'll speak on the fans first. I'd just say, yeah, really, really welcoming. No matter who you are, where you're from, if you work hard enough, you're good enough. And that's the main thing. I feel that energy on a match day. Also, seeing on match days, we have boys like Illy from Senegal. You see young kids with the flags. Obviously, Sander, Norway, Anel from Bosnia. You see them with the flags, and it can help people that are coming from different backgrounds here to know that they feel welcome and supported. And I think that's a big part.
So they're really celebrated.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you see the flags. It's the first thing you see.
Amazing, amazing. Listen, we have to touch on this issue. It's an open-ended question, and I know what your responses are going to be in regards to the question that I asked, but I want you to give me a little bit more detail in them, if you're okay with that. So the question is racism still an issue? Yeah, me and you have spoken on a number of occasions about this, and I suppose it's why I'm going to come to you first. Is it still an issue, and why, Rhian?
Yes, and I don't know why it's still an issue. Shouldn't be, but it definitely is still a big issue in my eyes. And you know, we talk about things getting done, and I don't think things are getting done. You know, you might get the odd punishment here and there, but I don't think it's severe enough for it to stop. With fans to players to people on the side, like staff members on the sideline, and I just feel like it's just a big thing in the game, and it hasn't slowed down. It's probably stayed the same. Stops for a little bit and then just carries on. Talk to me about one of your experiences and how it made you feel. Oh, which one should I? Anyone you want. You don't have to name the club or name whatever, but just how it made you feel as well. I'll talk about probably a player when we were winning. This is when I was playing under 19 Champions League. It was against Sevilla. Yeah, Sevilla. I won't name the club. And we were winning. Obviously, games going well and whatever. I think I scored actually. And I remember just little something happened on the side. And I was angry. I think I lost the ball or something. I was angry. I just chased him down. Left one on him a little bit. And just on the floor now. We're both on the floor. And I heard something. I thought, what? Nah. Are my ears deceiving me, or did I? And I said that again. And then he said it again. And then, I just lost my head completely. Went to walk off the pitch. At the time, Gerard was the manager. And obviously, I think he realised what had happened, because I wouldn't react the way I did if nothing had happened. And he just said, Rhian, like, do you want to come off the pitch? If you do, I'll back you fully. If you want to stay on, I'll back you fully. And he was really good with me. I ended up staying on the pitch, told the ref, whatever, and I'm not going to say what I said to him. But carried on, won the game. And I'm not going to say what I tried to do in the in the tunnel. But yeah, it got.
So you were still angry though, weren't you?
Yeah, I was angry for about 3 days. And
why? What is it that makes you? I say what is it? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but why are you angry for so long?
Because I feel like you could say anything else apart from the colour of my skin. To like, if you'd have said anything about my mum, of course I'll be angry, but I wouldn't, like, I'll just laugh it off because I'll be like, you got to say that to try and get in my head. You can say anything about anything else. I'm rubbish at football. You're terrible, whatever. I don't care. I'll probably just laugh it off. But the fact that you have to go to the colour of my skin and my background just makes me feel like you're just a low life. And probably now, like, I was very young then, so I was very hot-headed. And I think now if someone was to say it, like another player or something, I'd probably just laugh it off. Because it's happened that many times now, I'd probably just report it, laugh, and just laugh, and you say, what, you have to say that to me to try. Now I know I'm better than you. Yeah. Which I know I'm better than them anyway, but you know, like, I just feel like you're trying to put me off my game when probably you're the one that's off your game anyway, because you got to go that low to try to get under my skin.
Why did you want to walk off then? At that moment, can you remember?
Yeah, because I just wanted to smash his face and...
So you're protecting yourself?
Yeah. From doing something that I probably would regret after.
Yeah.
So it was about 2 minutes, so I walked down the touchline. Gerard spoke to me, calmed me down a bit, and then I went back on the pitch. It was about a good 2 minutes, and he calmed me down. And after that, I was still angry, but it was more like, not laughing about it, but I was still...
You managed to process it almost,
yeah. And obviously I reported it, and the ref spoke, and I think the guy got banned, but I think it was for something like 3 games or something like that. Nothing major, but yeah, that's one of my experiences.
Okay, thanks, Rhian. Whereas yours is a particular case because you're a goalkeeper who's going to hear all the abuse, by the way, anyway, because you just can't ignore it, can you?
Yeah.
So is it still an issue? And are you hearing some stuff behind you that actually you won't be able to repeat on this platform today?
Yeah, it is still an issue, massive issue. I do think there's been a lot that's tried to be done, but equally sometimes I feel as though it annoys people, and I don't know why. It's, I'm sick of seeing this now. I'm sick of seeing this now. Like, can we not just move on from this? And it's hard. It's hard to try and, you know, change people's views that don't want to change. But my experiences from in-game, this is when I was in Scotland. I think a player had a shot. It's gone out for a goal kick. I've like jumped over to obviously see it go over. I was sort of hanging on the bar, you know where this one's going. Yeah. And I've heard a shout from the crowd, "You black monkey." And I was like, whoa, but I wasn't sure.
Right.
I heard it,
yeah,
but I was that shocked. I was thinking, surely he's not said that.
That's what I was going to say to you. What is that instant I wasn't sure? Because you just said you heard it.
Because it was that outrageous that I thought, there's no way he's just shouted that out. So I thought, the game was on Sky as well. So I thought just carry on with the game, like maybe I've heard wrong. And then it wasn't until after the game that a fan from that team DM'd me on Instagram, apologising, because it was the fan that was sat next to him, apologising for him. Basically for what he said he doesn't represent all the fans at this football club. And yeah, if you're affected, like, I just want to apologise on his behalf.
How did that make you feel? Because to be fair, whenever I DM you never answer me, so how did you... I just wanted to put that out there, by the way.
That's a lie.
You know them.
You didn't make me scroll. You didn't make me scroll. Yeah, no, it was bittersweet, and I say bittersweet because it confirmed what I thought I heard.
Yeah.
But
so is that reality kicking in now?
Yeah, it was reality kicking in, but also just the fact that a fan took his time to apologise and make sure I was all right. I thought, you know, that was a touch of class from him. But yeah, I've had a few incidents. Obviously,
so it's actually the perfect. I'll choose my words wisely here. For an incident that is that obscene, you've almost had the perfect scenario because of the fan DMing you.
Yeah.
And apologising, and you know what I mean, looking after your welfare, trying to look after your welfare.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was honestly, it was really nice. I remember DMing back and just saying I appreciate it, I'm fine, and thank all the best for the season. I didn't. Do you know what? Because obviously this wasn't until maybe I'd say 2 days later, I think it was, that he messaged me, but I didn't want to report it because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't, at the time I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to say, oh, I heard this and maybe I didn't. I was sort of questioning myself, but yeah, after I got that message, I just, honestly, I let that one slide. The message did make me feel a lot better, but like I say, it just confirmed what I heard, and just the fact that someone can say that so blatantly at a football ground is just terrible, to be honest.
Would you report now?
Yeah.
Without question?
Without question, I'd report it.
Even if you, like, how you didn't know if you were sure?
No, I wasn't sure. If I'm not sure, I'm not going to report it. If I'm not sure, I'm not going to report it. But if I'm sure, I'm certain I heard it, then 100% I'm going to report it.
Courtney?
There's more to be done. I think I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent now.
Wow, let me put my iPad away. And,
No, but you know what? You know what it is. I think you look at this Black History Month and it's great for this month, but then where does it go? And it's the similar thing with the knee. We had the conversation with the FA, obviously before the start of the season, in terms of it's potentially now just going to be done at showpiece times to get maximum exposure. But where do we go with it? When we do these things, what's behind it? What's the process? Because going back to sort of education, so for me, it was talking to my parents and my family heritage. It was investing in myself, Akala, Natives, what a great book that is. Reading books like that, and you know, then when you look at everything that happened around George Floyd and the Colson statues, and then you're looking at slavery and the part that the British Empire had in that. How do children growing up don't know that? We're taught about Henry VIII and his wives, but we're not taught about everything around it now. Is that a shame for the British Empire and Britain that we don't teach that? And I think some of it it's so difficult because to put yourself in someone else's shoes, I grew up in a multicultural background with all different races and creeds and everything else in between. So it's easy for me, or I think it's easy for me to be just a normal person in society in terms of take everyone as they are. But if you've grown up with, I don't know, potentially racist parents or a background that's predominantly white, yes, there's an onus on you to educate yourself, but then if you're going to school and all you're learning about is Henry VIII and not the history of the British Empire and why the Windrush generation were invited over and told to come over and why these immigrants come into the country, it's difficult, isn't it? So I think there's from top to bottom, whether it be football, whether it be education, whether it be the government, that obviously needs to change. And yes, we can educate ourselves, but we've got to give kids a head start in terms of knowing just the background of history. And yeah, as I say, the month is fantastic because it highlights it, but it needs to be more than a month. It needs to be more than a need. There needs to be a process behind what we do. And in terms of sort of my own background, I say this sort of with a pinch of salt, I may be quite lucky in my complexion in terms of I'm quite light skinned.
So we're going back to that colorism bit
yeah.
again, aren't we? Yeah.
So we're going back to that colorism and, like I say, talking about sort of that book I was reading, Natives and Akala, in terms of like that then translates into Jamaica. And if you're seen as light skin, for example, in Jamaica, then you know you're seen as a higher class automatically, even though. So he was talking about in his book where he's mixed race, he went to Jamaica and he was like one of the poorest members of society in England, but automatically when he's Jamaica, they think he's rich because he's light skinned. Yeah. So.
Or red, as they used to say.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's crazy. So for me, I've maybe been lucky in that sense.
Do you call it lucky though? Are you throwing lucky at me just to, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's been a couple of instances when I was younger, and you know why it upset me? Because it was sort of to do with my dad as well. So when my dad was watching and the opposition player had figured out that was my dad, so it was more or less against me.
More about your dad.
More about my dad, and that upset me because then I fought for him, and then I've had stories from my nanny as well. Like what she had to go through coming over and being, again, it's funny, she was only talking about me to this the other day in terms of then the issues that they had in terms of her being married to a white man and then the racism that they received. So yeah, it was less for me and more upsetting to think that someone had spoke about my dad and my heritage in that way. But it's also like the institutional stuff or the things that people say without thinking, like, oh, yeah, you're fast because your dad's black, mixed race. And you know what, and you just think it's so lazy.
I was quick, you know. No, why are you laughing? No, seriously, I was quick.
But
You
yeah.
see where Andros gets it
Yeah, I
from,
was
don't
gonna
you?
say that. I was
But
gonna say
yeah,
that. Not from
it's
you.
the things like that, and it's even where your teammates. But I like what Wes said about that fan calling the other fan out or sort of apologised on his behalf, and that's such an important thing as well, because we go and people say things and we almost brush it under the carpet, and especially I think it's harder when it's your friends or your teammates, because you sort of think, oh yeah, but I know them as a person and they're nice and maybe they don't mean it, but it's got to be like, mate, you can't say things like that.
Courtney,
On
thanks
that,
for the full
yeah.
freak. Go on, yeah.
I'm not gonna name the player or name the team or whatever, but that's when you said about the teammate. Where's not it's not in our change room, by the way, but someone that come back from another team was saying about how a white player would just joke about and say leave a banana on a black player's like space, or say, are you hungry, and then offer him a banana or something like that. And I feel like if that happened to me, I'll be angry and I would say something, but the other players would just laugh it off, and for me that's not right. And like you said, it's your own teammate. So if your own teammate can do it, then he's basically saying that the opposition can do it, and anyone else could.
He's
could do
allowing
something
that
like
space
Yeah.
almost for you to be targeted in that way.
Exactly, and I feel like that shouldn't, especially your own teammate. Anyway.
Let's thank you. Incredible stories, by the way. I'm not shocked by any of them, but I think the more that we talk about them, the better it will be. But I think you've all highlighted that more needs to be done, and it doesn't. Unfortunately, it's not happening at the moment, and maybe it's these voices, the player voices, that need to be heard more. Do you have any solutions? Do you think that why doesn't football try X, or why doesn't football try Y, or do you think that football's not strong enough in those kind of ideas that it has? So, like you've mentioned, Courtney, taking a knee, we do it and then we stop it, and there's no what's next?
Yeah.
What's the next stage? Is there any solutions at all that any of you can think of?
That's the £1 million question, isn't it? I think obviously having to report it to the referee straight away, ejecting fans from stadiums, lifetime bans, that should be a given. But I really do think it just comes way back. Football can only do so much. Yes, as I say, football is a mirror of society, but for me, it needs to go way back. We need to look at the education system, how we're educating our children in schools, because football can only do so much. And it's an analogy that is happening in women's football as well, in terms of, women's football has done so well in the top 2 leagues, and now it's most things grow organically, so they go bottom up, whereas the Super League and the Championship are then having to filter down to the lower pyramids. And I think it's the same thing with football, in terms of they're trying to do these things with racism, but there's only so much that they can go top down with, because it's the rest of society. So I think it's very difficult for it all to lean on football. But I think things like this, or just in general opening channels of communication for people to speak, having those processes, and just, I think sometimes it's just a lack of understanding, or as I say, a lack of education, and sometimes it's just laziness.
Absolutely. Anything to add?
I think we say like there's a problem with racism in football, but the reality is there's a problem with racism in this country in general. It's not just football.
There'll be some that say that you're talking rubbish. Racism
There will
doesn't
be,
exist.
but it does.
That's their opinion.
Clearly, it does.
I've had a million account, and
yeah.
so probably you guys have too.
It's one of those where is anyone born racist? They're not. So it's learnt behaviour. So where does that lead to? It leads to the parents. It leads to their surroundings, how they grow up. It's difficult because if you go to certain areas in the country, there might not be any black people there. And anytime they see a black person on the TV, so if they've not grown up having any interaction with a black person, how are they supposed to react? What kind of stuff are their parents saying to them? How does that kid get the the education or that they need? It's difficult, and it's specifically in football. When we're talking about instances, say with the crowd, or with players on players or whatever, the first thing they do is they go to your pocket, they hit you with a fine. And when you're getting fines more for betting than racism, or the branding on your boxes is the fines more than fines for racism, what kind of message are we sending out there? What are we saying? How important is racism then? We're not valuing it very highly at the moment, I don't think.
Thank you. Anything else to add, or you're right with that?
Yeah, I've said it plenty of times. I've had interviews with you, and you just gotta. Me, I would ban them, but not ban them for 3 games. Ban them for 6 months, a year. Because trust me, I can't play without football for a week. So you ban them for 6 months, a year, they're gonna be struggling, and that will hurt them more than giving them a little fine or ban them for 3 games, because they're more likely than do it again. And so, I'll take another ban for another 3 games or something. So yeah, the punishment should be more severe, but I don't think it will be, because I just think nah.
Maybe it's not in the best interest of the sport.
Yeah. You've all touched on young people. We're coming to an end now, but you've all touched on young people really and said how much education is required. Is that where we're going then for the future? Is if we do things properly now, then our future will have a better kind of outlook in regards to this conversation, in regards to the black experience, in regards to people understanding, you know, that we're all as one. Because when you were children, your demographic around you was amazing. So couldn't it be like that for the future?
It's difficult. It's difficult because, like I say, we were fortunate in the fact that maybe we grew up in places where there were loads of different backgrounds. You get to know, you're aware of it. But there's some parts of the country where it's not like that. So how do they get the education? Do you know what I mean? How do they understand that, you know, well, actually, come away from your town, there's a whole group of other people out there that are human just like you and, you know, don't deserve to be looked at differently. It has to start from the ground up. So you've got to start, you know, whether that's going into schools, which I know a lot of that stuff gets done. But yeah, like you say, the Black History Month is 1 month out of the year. Can we not filter all these sort of messages in throughout the whole year? And just constant reminders, constant different little things, workshops, whatever it is, to try and get, tap into the kids' heads, especially the ones that are not in a multicultural environment where they live. And yeah, just keep on at it.
I wanted to end on a positive, and then I'm going to ask you, is Black History Month significant for you, hoping that you may be positive? Is it significant for you?
No.
Why not?
Because I thought, like Wes said, it's 1 month out of 12, and so as soon as the next month comes, it's like everyone forgets. So yeah, it's just 1 month. It's not really enough. Like Wes said, why can't you filter it through the whole year? And we're not saying bombard everyone with Black History Month for 12 months, but it's, you know, filtering here and there and just reminders of stuff like that. So 1 month out of 12, not enough for me.
Courtney?
Yeah, I feel like some, you know, whoever it be that takes on the stuff for Black History Month, it's almost at times like a tick box exercise. It's like, yeah, it's October, we've done our bit, tick that off and forgotten again. So yeah, you know, we know we do all these sort of works, and companies, football clubs do it within the cities and target, you know, socio-economic in that sense. But like Wes says, can't we then look at targeting different areas, different demographics, different backgrounds, so then we can, you know, go into these places, go into schools, go into, you know, maybe football clubs in those areas that aren't as diverse as we used to, and use education as a tool, because, you know, children, they don't know any different. Like, they honestly don't know any different growing up. So if we can then create this from the bottom up society at the moment, hopefully it then filter through and create more people in a football stadium that will call it out and go, actually, I'm really sorry, Wes, that wasn't right. They will then start calling their friends, their family out in different situations, and that's how we get change. And, you know, it's very idealistic, I would say, at the moment, but I think that's the way that it's got to go.
Brilliant. Any final thoughts from you, Wes?
No.
Do you know what I was going to say is that there was a new Prime Minister announced. Maybe we need to look at you three to go into the Cabinet and help them kind of understand our area of work.
Put me in there. I want to be Prime Minister.
One final thought, just for the football club and the fans. How important, and you've kind of said it, but I'd like you to finish off on this because I want to be positive. How important is this conversation, what the three of you have shared in regards to your experiences, your knowledge, your understanding, but also in regards to, you know, helping to fuel more conversation in this space? How important has today been?
Massively important. I think people should be more comfortable being able to talk about a subject. I know it's quite difficult, people don't want to say the wrong thing, but you should be comfortable discussing maybe your experiences. And like I said, some people might be oblivious to it. They might not know racism exists. that's why you say you get people saying, "Oh, racism don't exist." That's because you've never experienced it. But you know, the more you go in and talk about it, you reach out to certain people, and they think, "Hang on a minute, I didn't realise this was happening." And I think that's the way to go. That's the way you tap into people's minds. And I think if you don't speak about it, nothing's going to get done. So yeah.
Courtney?
Yeah, I think it's so important to initially be given a platform to speak about it, and also then, as Wes said, that starts a conversation. I think it's important. I think race, money, sort of sexuality, they're sort of the taboos that no one wants to speak about. But I think as well it's about allies. So you look to be an ally and to be anti-racist, let's say, and call it out. You don't have to be black, mixed race, Indian, whatever. You can be from any background. So I think as well it's giving opportunities for people to, don't get me wrong, not be overtly racist, but they can make mistakes and say the wrong thing, and that's fine. Like I think most people will know in terms of have that gut feeling of how that's being said. So I think again, opening up the channels for people to be able to make mistakes and learn from mistakes and be allies, I think for me is the next big step.
Brilliant. And it wouldn't be right if I didn't give you the final word, would it?
Yeah.
So, thoughts?
Nice. I'm just gonna be repeating, to be honest, everything they said. So I agree with what they said.
And that's it.
Yeah, man. Short and sweet.
PM Brewster.
From my point of view, from the organisation point of view, obviously my title, Head of Player Engagement, means I get to work with players more. I've tried to work with this guy, but yeah, it's been difficult. But this is one of the processes. I've been supporting the club now for the past 9 months in various different things that they're doing. I'm delivering to the women's team later on. You know, I'm helping with all their EDI strategy. So that's some of the things that people don't see as well. Do you know what I mean? And won't recognise. But I want to do more. And just hearing what you're saying about, you know, there can be more to do, but let's have a platform to do it. So hopefully I can provide that platform somewhere along the line. And this is just the start of many, many more conversations, but also filtering into the community around Sheffield United to help them understand a little bit more, although the community seems to be very good in supporting you and channeling, get my teeth in, sorry, channeling the kind of positive support that you all require. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah,
Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.